All right, we are live. Chat room, please let
Awesome.
us know when you can see us. Sybil, thank you for showing up. We were just sitting around twiddling our thumbs waiting on you.
We were
Glad
worried.
you made it. Yeah, we were going to start calling around, make sure you're all right. Is anybody saying Sybil?
Here's what I want to know. If Sybil can't show up, how do we get notified?
Oh, that's right.
We need an emergency backup plan.
We'll need a red phone that Sybil can call and let us know that she won't be able to make it.
Very important.
The bat phone, the Sybil phone.
The Sybil phone. Also, maybe we can use it to talk her into actually coming on the show one day.
I keep trying. She keeps saying no.
She needs to. That'd be awesome.
I know. I know
Okay.
exactly.
Audio visual just went live.
Awesome.
Uh-oh.
Yes, they can see
We're in
us.
trouble. Okay, good.
All right. Put the clothes back on.
Yep. Please put your pants on. Yeah, put your pants back on.
I'm
I can't
not
see
wearing
them.
pants.
I'm wearing pants, but they're not mine. So
Oh, there we go. I'm wearing a skirt.
okay, so hey, let's do a podcast, guys.
That sounds like a great idea.
Are we ready?
I think we are.
We'll call it to the top of the document. I
I'm
just
there.
feel weird if I don't say that from somebody. Okay, I've got the theme ready, so we'll begin in 5, 4, 3, 2. On this episode of the AIE podcast,
The Final Fantasy Fan Fest is this weekend.
Iron Horde Incursion is coming.
Lotro is having a craft fair.
There are
Stupid Genius and Turbo are here to talk to us about Eve.
all that and more coming up right now. Bringing you the latest news from the AIE gaming community from planet Earth and beyond. This is the AIE podcast. All right, greetings and welcome to episode 211 of the podcast celebrating the Aliyah Iacta Est gaming community. This is Accusod. Aludra is off digging in the dirt, which we can't really tell you more about. It's a secret. If you want to know more, you have to follow her on Twitter. But right over here, we've got Makala.
Hey guys, we have cookies and cream cupcakes in the Guild Kitchen.
Ooh, good choice. I love those.
Thank you.
Right, this week here to talk to us about AIE and EVE Online, we've got two special guests. First up is Stupid Genius. We just call him Stu.
Because otherwise it's just rude.
That's true. And otherwise, we have to, this podcast no longer be G-rated if you start throwing around words like that.
Yes.
And we also have Turbo. Welcome.
Hey guys, it's not been too awful long, but glad to be back.
Thanks.
I know you guys were just on. All right, so let's go around the horn. Makala, I've been gone for 2 weeks, so what in the world's been going on?
Well, you missed one heck of a great Gary fight Thursday night.
Oh, man.
Oh, we didn't even get into the second phase, heart phase. It was a good
Wow.
time.
Well, that's because I wasn't there.
Right. I don't remember who all got heirlooms. Again, I think I got an heirloom for somebody else's class. Oh, and
Have you gotten an heirloom every single Gary fight?
I have pretty much, but still nobody will drop the necklace I need. And I guess Tet got a two-handed axe.
Oh, nice. You could use
Yes. Right.
that. Outstanding. All right, Stu, you've been on the show a billion times. What have you been up to since last time you were here?
Well, I've been dabbling in this new little MMO from Tryon, which you guys might remember them from the Rift days, which I was a huge fan of back in the day. And so now they are the publisher for the new MMO ArcAge from South Korea, made by XL Games. And I guess the lead designer is his name is Jake Song, I believe. He's one of the lead designers that was part of Lineage, if you remember that MMO back in the day. So there's kind of his brand new imagined world based on some novels, I guess is my understanding. But it's a new fantasy MMO that we AIE is kind of going into in the GURP project process and checking out, and been having a blast in there with Turbo and a lot of the Eve guys, because as some of us like to say it's Eve on land, as there's a
Oh, great.
high level of complexity to the game. Not as much as Eve, but there's a lot of nuances and deepness to the game that, while on the surface, you just don't really notice.
Are there spreadsheets?
Yeah, well, yeah, we have a spreadsheet actually going right now.
Do you have to be paranoid?
Not as much. You just have to You just have there's farms and you can set permissions for those. You can set them to either family, which is like a group that you can create that can be part of multiple guilds or whatever you want to do, and then there's also you can just open it up to the guild, or you can even make it public, or you can make it completely private, so only you can do work on your farm. So it's as you can be as paranoid as you'd like.
Okay.
But you don't necessarily have to be very paranoid to play the game like Eve you do.
Awesome.
I've actually been hearing about the game a lot. It's got the kind of press that WildStar had when it first came out, so it sounds like it's great.
Yeah, it's been quite a bit of fun. It's a little bit more non-PvP friendly for some of the people compared to Eve, because when you're in Arcade, if you're in your faction zone, people can't attack you, but if you attack them, then it's free game. So it works out for people that don't want to ever really venture into the PvP areas. But a lot of the fun is in the PvP areas.
So it's
Yeah,
PvP by choice.
Yeah, so no one can attack you until you hit level 10. So that's kind of a difference between Eve, where it's kind of anytime you're undocked in Eve, you can be attacked, whereas in Arcade you can't be attacked, and you can't even attack people until you're level 10. So that's kind of a big one. And then of course there's a number of lands and zones that you can't even get attacked in, but then there's also ones that go in and out of war that make it more fun. So that's what Turbo and I have been having a blast doing, is just kind of exploring that world. And then I think we're both working on pirate characters to check out the more nefarious parts of the game.
Even on land, you're a pirate. So Turbo, we heard your voice there for a second. What have you been up to? It's been a while since you've been on.
Playing a lot of Arcade, trying not to cause any diplomatic incidents
Good.
in Eve, although Stu made me a diplomat, so yeah, I would expect more coming soon.
Isn't that like
They're not Stu,
giving
Hoots,
Isn't that like giving the wolf the keys to the henhouse?
pretty much.
Awesome.
We got some plans coming up. You'll hear about that later. But the big thing is I want a 3D printer, print all the pretty things.
Ooh.
Yeah, though I've been seeing those at conventions I go to. Those things are just neat.
I blame Senile.
Okay, well, let's jump back into Eve news here in a bit, but first let's jump into AIE news.
AIE News.
Just a reminder, there's a meetup planned for this upcoming weekend, October 17th. The Final Fantasy Online officers will be hosting a mini company/guild hall at the Rio Hotel for the Final Fantasy 14 Fan Festival. My God, that's a mouthful.
That was pretty good, though. You did that.
Thanks.
Good job.
If you plan on being in Las Vegas for the event, sign up on the AIEmeetup.com site to let us know you're coming. Also, meetup site, we have one. It's fun and easy to use to plan your next guild event.
Also, if you're
All
going
right.
to the Final Fantasy meet, the Eve meet is the same weekend. So if you're there, you might be able to meet. I think Lank is going to be there, so you could probably hang out with him at some point.
Oh,
Yeah, just don't
that's
let
fun.
Don't let him trick you into buying his drinks.
And don't get him started on ponies.
Or hipster food.
Okay, let's move on to AIE in World of Warcraft, and wow, we have a lot of news. That was actually a pun, but I didn't mean that. Sorry. Patch 6.0.2, the Iron Tide, is scheduled to crash into Azeroth on Tuesday, this Tuesday, October 14th. That's like in 2 days.
2 days.
With the patch... What?
2 days.
2 days. With the patch comes the world event Iron Horde Incursion, the new character models, but not Blood Elves or Pandas, inventory improvements, characters and class changes, quality of life changes. There's the stat squish. There's all the spells they're taking out, the ones they've combined. It's going to be a huge change. And Justice and Valor points are no longer, but you will be receiving the equivalent of 47 silver for every Justice point or Valor point in the mail. So I'm thinking I'm going to convert all my Valor points to Justice points if they're worth the same per point. But okay.
Yeah, you might as well.
All right. You know, we're AIE, of course, is made up of a number of co-guilds. We generally don't mention the individual co-guilds because we're one big guild, but we did have some groups get together over the last few weeks and intentionally try to push some achievements for the co-guilds. We want to give them some credit and some kudos. So we've got big rats to those in the Selous co-guild for unlocking the reins of the Thundering Jade Cloud Serpent. The raid team, better late than never. I'm going to mess up these names, so forgive me, which is Horkos, Monk Curious, Warlow, Tolgar, Inor, Jeratul, Nazari, Thugs, Lisky Druid, Malcontent, Snaff, and Pavu worked very hard. Thank you very much. They worked very hard to unlock this beautiful mount. Again, it's only available to the members in the co-guild Selous.
And I believe you have to be exalted for that particular mount.
Right, and just a word of warning for those who might be like, oh, I'll just switch between co-guilds, which is cool and all. You do lose a level of rep if you switch guilds. So if you're exalted in another co-guild and you jump over to Selous, you will drop back down to honored or revered, whatever it is, revered, I guess, and have to work your way back up to exalted. So you may or may not want to do that. Just to warn you, we've had some people that ask to be switched and then get upset because they didn't realize that was going to happen.
Yep.
And a big, huge congrats to the co-guild Dignitas for opening up the Thunder Serpent Hatchling. You can pick up this lovely pet at Revered with Dignitas at the guild vendor in Orgrimmar, but it's only available until the patch drops on Tuesday. So if you're not in Dignitas, you probably won't have time to switch over. And then, actually, no, if you're exalted with Dignitas or exalted with somebody else and you switch over, you may have time to get it. But, of course, switching co-guilds can sometimes be a pain anyway, so it is something we do allow. We're not against the idea. Of course, you just have to make sure you're on when there's an officer on in that particular co-guild. Sometimes that doesn't always happen as soon as you'd like, so we apologize if that's what you'd like to do and you don't find an officer on in that guild.
Just be patient with us. We have tried to make sure that we have lots of coverage this weekend, but of course during the week we don't have as much coverage because, we have to pay to play the game and we have jobs.
Yeah, and like theirs has authorized overtime payment for the officers who want to work late and make sure to get people moved over, which is a 10% in addition to what we normally make,
so
which
0.
is of course 0. Yeah. So, but just hang in there with us, and we're happy to move people around as we have to. So thank you, and speaking of that, thank you to those great AIE officers who have been working hard on swapping guildies around to be able to get those achievements and get the pet, especially Nevermore, Eagle, Mewcow, and Alakaz, who've all been on there working overtime, making sure people get in and out of the right guilds. So big shout out to them.
We do have, by the way, I forgot to mention it in the notes, a special channel. It's AIE. It's actually AIE Swap. And if we do have officers around that are available to do those swaps for you, we'll be hanging out in that channel.
Oh, cool. Well, I'll make sure to jump on that on my Selous tune.
Right.
All right. AIE member Thugs has put out a call for all raiders with a tune geared 516 above and ones that know the fight to help with the Garrosh Hellscream, their Heirloomathon event. I love the idea.
It's great.
Heirloomathon event. The idea is to help AIE members get as many heirlooms as possible between the patch and Warlords, which we know is a month away. So sign up with your information on the forums. And last, we have tons of great guildies making content and planning events right now. Again, the best place to go to find out all of where that's happening and make sure you're a part of it is to keep an eye in the forums and the AIE WoW Twitter feed, and that is at AIE_WoW. And we want to give a huge shout out to Nevermore for keeping that up to date. And if you are doing an event and you tweet, make sure you include AIE_WoW in your tweet so that Nevermore can retweet that for you.
Definitely, and she's really great about doing that to make sure that the guild knows what's going on when it's happening.
She is awesome.
She is. And speaking of Twitter, this is literally just in. Max Storchwar tweeted today that there will be a short hanger deck unlock ceremony at the Imperial flagship tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern. So once you're done with the podcast, maybe grab some dinner.
2.5 hours?
Exactly. Head on over to Storchwar and enjoy that ceremony. SWTOR also has a really lots going on. They're very popular, very fun. Ask SWTOR Guildie is, of course, we have up next. Now my turn to pronounce names. Yektorlo. So go to the forum, put them under the Inquisition, find out what makes them tick. And we want to send our condolences. Oh yeah, congratulations to the newest Star Wars officer, Sten, S-T''N. And last, Star Wars came out with some huge news. The saga continues in Star Wars, The Old Republic, The Shadows of Revan. It's an all-new, all-digital expansion. Revan returns in a new story-driven expansion with 5 new levels of adventure. And it launches December 9th. And the earlier you order, the more goodies you get. The best thing about this, though, is with the early order is players are offered 12 times experience game while playing exclusively through the class story mission up to level 55. The boost is effective as soon as you pre-order and goes through December 1st. So pretty much
nice.
right up until that week before the new expansion drops, you can get that extra XP.
I love that. Great
Yeah,
idea.
it's great.
All right, let's move on to AIE in Lord of the Rings Online. In grand AIE tradition, Van Flick has announced that those brave citizens of Middle-earth are looking to have a membership drive / craft fair for 2 weeks beginning on October 23rd-ish. Hobbits aren't good with dates. They're just, So this may be partially due to Van Flick's hoarding habit, but I believe it'll benefit the kinship itself. Keep your eyes on the thread in the Lotro part of the forums for details as they emerge.
And not only do we have the big patch and WoW dropping this week, but also Delta Rising, the expansion for Star Trek Online, is coming. It actually is the same day, October 14th, Tuesday. Delta Rising will take place in the Delta Quadrant, exploring the effects of the journey of the USS Voyager to the region more than 30 years earlier? Later, I guess. Oh, Voyager was there 30 years ago. Now it's real time in game. Sorry about that. Show notes are hard. This expansion features the level cap will be increased from 50 to 60. 9 new Tier 6 ships will be available at launch. A new type of bridge officer will also be available, the intelligence officer, and the addition of Garrett Wang voicing Harry Kim, plus even more Tim Russ. Good times.
Oh, so if you're a World of Warcraft player and a Star Trek Online player, this Tuesday you better call in sick. Yeah, you're going to be sick all week. I'm sorry. In fact, you need to call your boss. You're not looking well. We'll let him know that you're not going to be there for a few days.
Most definitely. We'll make the excuse. It's fine.
Yeah, blame us. Just blame me all the time. My wife does. It's totally cool. So, all right, let's get back into AIE EVE Online with Stu and Hoots. All right, guys, what's going on in space?
It's actually Stu and Turbo.
Sorry.
Yes, yeah. I forgot to change the notes there. Sorry about
that. We had a last-minute substitution. Hoots had to head up north.
Obviously.
Yes.
I actually can't read and think at the same time because I know Turbo's here. I just spoke to him.
All right, so what's been happening in AIEU land? Well, first off, we wanted to get the word out on Slack. It's our new communication tool. A lot of you are familiar with Jabber or IRC or any of the other tools out there. Slack is kind of its own little communication tool that a lot of us have been using. We had some feedback from some other EVE people that suggested we should use it. So we've all been having a blast doing it. It's an extension of like our IRC and so forth, and you kind of interact with being able to hashtag or @reply people and still have private groups where you can conversate and handle private matters or OPSEC reasons, especially that's important in EVE.
So it's a text-based system?
Yeah, it's full text-based. It has image. It's kind of like we were going to use GroupMe for this, but we decided to go ahead and move over to Slack because it has a little bit more control and allows us to do a little bit more to it. Turbo is actually going to be the one to.
If you're not there and you're still in good standings with AIEU, we invite everybody to come check it out because it's always in the random section. It's always just whatever people are talking about, and we have a general Eve section in it too. And a lot of times it kind of runs over, and it may make you just remember the reasons that you love Eve, reminisce about the old fun that you had, or it may just remind you how much you hate it. So,
Now I have to ask: was it created by the Church of the Subgenius?
Not that we're familiar with, no.
All right. So I had to throw out all the obscure references I can.
No,
In
I
fact,
mean
yeah,
it's
someone asked
it's
the same question.
yeah. I think that's what he was saying, or sorry, she was saying there. The Slack is kind of actually designed for corporate communication to be able to centralize instead of having like email, chat, text, and everything in between occurring inside of like your business organization. It's supposed to centralize it so you can just send it over Slack. You can share documents over like Google Drive or Google Doc, and it allows you to be very centralized, and it's all searchable. So like, oh, what was that thing that McCullough sent me last week? It was about ponies or whatever, and I search ponies and I can find it. I know she wouldn't do that, but she sent me a picture that was making fun of ponies that I meant to link the link, and that's
Yes,
what it was.
yes, thank you.
So that's kind of the benefit there. Of course, as Turbo said, if you're not playing Eve right now, but you're still in good standing with AIEU, we welcome you to come in and join us. And it's kind of cool. It has a mobile app for iOS, Android, I think Windows Phone. So check it out. It's pretty cool.
Great.
And next up is kind of the big news from our corp update for October is we're going to be deploying to Naka, which is LOSEC. It's part of Derelict, not that far from Providence, that we're going to be moving to be able to base out of for current corp deployment. It's strictly just our corp. We're not moving there with a greater alliance or anything like that. We'll talk a little bit later about what the Greater Alliance Coalition are up to, but we're looking to try to have some fun with Providence, so we're moving down there. And biggest thing is it's going to be a very lean deployment. We're not going to be providing any movement services or anything like that. We want you to just grab 1 or 2 bombers and maybe an interceptor or 2 and have that move to Naka on your own. It's not that far from HiSec and it shouldn't be terribly difficult to get anything right there. If you're just having trouble or something getting there, feel free to hit me up in game or out of game, and we'll try to work something out. But as of right now, the Corp isn't offering any official movement services.
Naka is actually only about 12 jumps out of Amar, and only 2 of those jumps are low sec, so you can get there relatively quickly, even if you're in high sec, and get into some fights. Where we're at in Catch, it is really hard for anybody to come in and just, if they wanted to try and play with us and they're not part of Brave, they're pretty much going to get shot. But where we're at, people could come in and play with us in the low sec area because we're just a little bit into low sec instead of a good 30 jumps into null.
Perfect.
And also, Kuda and Lank are working on getting us a bunch of ships ready to fly out there, so you won't have too many issues about getting some. If you can't get anything out there, you can at least get something that we have there to fly.
So we're going to have the resources to carry that.
Sorry, I mean to interrupt there. I love that you said catch and there was immediately crying in the background.
Right.
That's okay. Now I have to ask. You guys know I was big into Eve for a good 3 months. I think it obsessed me for 3 solid months. It is a great game. I love playing it. Unfortunately, I got down to the point where I can only pay for 1 game at a time, and I just don't have your guys' ability to make plex in game, just due to time limitations. So is this like a more accessible way to get in? Because really where we were at the time when I was there, there was really not a lot to do except go out and fight, which is the whole main point of Eve anyway. So what kind of missions are you guys be running in the new space?
There's lots of opportunity to run various things to make ISK, from being able to just straight rat. Because we're in nullsec, you have good mission running / rat or it was a shortened term for pirate, basically killing baddies for their bounties and then also for the loot that they drop. You can make a pretty decent amount of ISK doing that in nullsec. Turbo actually does a lot of exploration in going out and checking out data sites and relic sites. Do you want to talk a little bit about how much you're making and what you're doing as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, actually, it's one of the things that's coming up in the. It's kind of a little look forward in the update Phoebe, or however you say it, Phoebe, or I don't really know, but coming up in that they're actually balancing the exploration relic loot, so everybody's going to pretty much be able to get loot, better paying loot all around. Right now, relic sites in a good night, if I'm not fighting too incredibly hard. Oh, hold on a second.
On a good night, I believe he's making somewhere about $1 billion ISK, give or take, and that's in the relic loot and all the other stuff. So he usually has to move that out to either HiSec to get it sold in Amar or something like that, or some of it you can probably sell locally and or sell it to a buyback service locally if it's a good enough.
I have to admit, good enough size. Exploration, I think, would become my favorite part of the game, is because it's kind of like a solo way to play a multiplayer game and still have a lot of fun, because there's that stress and tension when I'm approaching a relic site and I see a blip come up on the scan. I'm like, oh, is that a friendly, or is he gonna blow me up?
Yeah, well, you always have the first line of intel, which is going to be your local chat to see if a friendly or neutral or hostile is in the system. And then beyond that, you also have your D-scan, which we'll talk a little bit about later on. There's some D-scan changes coming in the next couple updates. Actually, in the most recent update, there was a way that changed the way the drop-down works, and so you can more easily get angled scans and narrowing down scans to make it easier to scan down things around you to tell what's coming towards you and so forth. But I wanted to go back just a little bit. Speaking of making Plex, Hoots has been doing a monthly contest for September. I believe it was the most kills, and actually one of our brand new members. I think he's only been in the corp like 3 months of September, or sorry, 2 or 3 weeks of September, and he got the most kills. So he got or most final kills or something like that. I don't remember the exact contest details, but he got a Plex for that. October's contest is going to be eve-mailing Drusen Howden in-game, or sending the PM to Hoots on the Extra Life forums with an after action report that you have written. So basically it means you need to run a fleet and be able to have written up an after action report AAR on the Brave subreddit or on the My Extra Life forums, or both if you prefer.
Okay, now I don't remember seeing an AAR before. What is an after action report?
It's pretty simple. It doesn't have to be very complex. It just basically is what happened on a fleet you've ran. So if you're FCing a fleet and you're running around and you killed 3 things, or your whole fleet died, you just make note of that, what happened, and then you try to make some notes about if you're the FC after the fact, maybe what I could have done differently here or what I could have done differently there. You can make a few notes of that. You don't need to be overly critical of yourself or anything like that. It's just more of a, this is what I did, and then generally people will post and say great job, or here's a few things that you could have tried differently. Like there was a recent one that actually happened with a lot of our groups were in, that they were all in bombers, and they had tried to aggress a Astero, which is a Sisters of Eve frigate, which is bad news bears for them because bombers have torpedo launchers, and torpedo launchers are about the size of battleship guns, and being able to track a frigate, even with target painters, is terribly difficult. And so bombers are glass cannons, and from what I read on the after action report, they basically got destroyed by the Astero's drones. So that's kind of one of the things that you learn differently is don't ingress a frigate in a bomber, as your guns are just too big to be able to hit it very well.
Got it.
One of the things I always miss the fact I just trained on bombers before I had to step out of the game. I never got to run one.
They're a lot of fun. I'm level 5 in all the covert op recon ships, so I get that's pretty much about the only thing that I fly besides I just stepped into T3 cruisers, which is a lot of money, and if I die, I lose skill points. So
Ouch.
Oh, wow. That's not good.
yeah, it's like losing XP
So
when you
don't die.
die. Yeah, it's about you gotta play it real safe or just not care a whole lot.
In our own, like, there's WoW actually has done a couple of bomber/interceptor fleets recently. He's been having mixed success. That's he was mentoring somebody with when they were on the previous fleet with where they had tried to aggress a Astero and lost. That was he was mentoring somebody else who was working on FCing, and that was kind of a lessons learned, so to speak. But there's another couple ones that they did where they went through wormholes and popped out on the other side of the universe, and it had found like a 1.9 or 1.6 billion ISK Tengu, and they killed a was it a Garma or Thuros? One of the two, one of the new Mortis Legion ships, and those are worth about a $500 million easy. So they had some really good success with their like relatively cheap ships.
That is insane.
Oh, I love it.
And again, length involved. Of course, it's insane.
Besides that, finally, the biggest news coming out, and this is a little bit of unknowns going about, but war is coming to Ketch, and Turbo can tell us a little bit more why that's happening.
We have upcoming jump drive changes coming in the Phoebe update, and what it is they're nerfing a lot of the jump drive ability to where you won't be able to warp across the entire universe in a single night and pick a fight with somebody and then warp all the way across back to your home. If you warp across the entire universe in one night, you're probably looking at that person being stuck there for a very long time unless they leave. And a lot of people are going to try and take advantage of that and attack at different sides of the universe for us, or the region, because we can't deploy as fast as we used to after the patch goes live. And it's going to make for some really interesting fights coming up, because people will either have to commit serious resources and pretty much give up their ability to get them out, or end up just committing lots and lots of little resources and just lots of people in smaller ships to pick fights. So it's going to be very interesting coming up soon.
Do you know why they're changing jump drives like that?
Force projection, which is a fancy power projection, force projection. It's a major issue right now in EVE, in that you have many of the big power blocks, Pandemic Legion, NC Dot or N3, and CFC and their respective coalitions. They all are able to, within a reasonable amount of time, get an entire super capital ship fleet from one side of the universe to the other right now. And that's always been an issue of, if I aggress this person, let's say, like, a good example is right now we occasionally have fights with N3 or Noli Secunda or whoever the case may be in our own backyard in Ketz. And usually what happens is we end up ingressing the carrier, and then just before the carrier gets killed, when it's about in like less than 25% structure, it itself or one of its one or two subcapital ships, usually like a Legion or something, T3 decently tanked, lights a Sino, and then in jumps like 8 or 9 carriers. And I don't know exactly where these were coming, but they could be hopped from all the way across the universe. And so, like, if there's a big fight that happens, instead of having just those people who are part of it fighting, you have the case of if big bad PL or big bad CFC hears about this and they have the right people online, or at least available to be pinged, they don't need to be actually online, then they can then go online and jump their ships from wherever the heck their home is. So let's say in Declan for the Goons, or I don't remember exactly where PL base is. All I can think is Amamaki. I know they don't where they are anymore, but anyways, wherever it may be. And right now, if a matter of half an hour or less, even maybe in 15 minutes, they can have their entire capital ship fleet moved across the universe. And that's an issue because then it makes it so we never want to aggress, or our group never want to aggress at a large scale, because there's always this question mark of this big, massive force being able to just hop down. And the only limitation is the number of Sinos that they have, and that's really not a real limitation. So what they've done is limited the jump drive range of almost all the ships except for jump freighters, but jump freighters are just used for logistics of moving ships around, or moving equipment and stuff like that around, package ships as well. So it's less of a deal of power projection, but it more so prevents. They also added a fatigue element, so when you jump, you have a fatigue on your character that doesn't go away as quickly as the time it takes you to jump. So if you jump, this is a little complicated, the math is crazy, but it's not actually crazy, but it's crazier than you probably want to follow. But let's just say, like, when you jump, it will take you approximately 5 to 10 minutes to be able to jump again. Beyond that, the next time you jump, if your fatigue doesn't all the way go down, and so there's a jump cooldown and then there's a jump fatigue, and there's the two separate things. If you don't wait till your jump fatigue goes all the way down, then it's explicit and it's exponential growth of the time. So the next time you jump, it's even longer for your jump cooldown to make it harder for you to be able to move all the way across the universe. They still want people to be able to move across the universe, but they don't want it to be easy. And that's kind of the point. They want to make the universe smaller again. With that said, there's still the ability to move around the universe in a somewhat of a quicker way, because they've changed the mechanics to the fact that now Titans, Super Capitals, Carriers, Dreadnoughts, anything of that class can now jump through gates. So they can still jump, but they want them to still have that time that it takes to warp across the universe, to take the gate, and then to come out the other side and align and continue and so forth. So they want to, if you're really committing the forces to move them, they want it to take the time to get across the universe. They don't want it just in an instant to happen. And one of the side effects and something that CCP acknowledges is going to happen is that there are going to be less big battles like the Battle of Asakai or the Battle of BTAC-R that many people have heard about through just mainstream media and so forth, where these large number of capitals are involved. Less of that will happen. There's still the potential for them to happen if there's a current war going on, because then you have the resources deployed to a given area, and it adds a lot of strategy to the back end of EVE, so that you need to be able to plan accordingly whether you're gonna, if you're trying to expand your border, so to speak, are you gonna put all of your big ships within one jump of the place you're fighting, or are you gonna keep them one jump or 1 or 2 jumps from back to cover your current land? And it's more of a risk approach to EVE, in that you can't have things all over the place in an instant. And so that's the kind of idea behind the whole jump drive nerf.
Boy, that is going to make a big change.
And
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Do we know when these changes are coming? I apologize, I didn't remember you saying a date, or is it TM?
November 4th, I believe, is the date.
Wow.
So, CCP, I think we talked about previously, the previous time I was on the show back in May, and then Turbo might have mentioned it before. CCP is on this new 6-week development cycle, although right now they're currently actually targeting 5 weeks as the development cycle. oddly enough, because that's just the way it worked out with timing. So they have 5 weeks where they're working on a set of features, whatever those will be. So like the previous release, I'll just run down real quick. Oceanus, they added burner missions. They added opt-in notification. They added some updates for visuals on wormholes and wormhole space. They added some Sino exclusion areas around star bases and pauses. They made some a rebalancing pass on interdictors and interceptors, and of course they made the French localization support added, which is kind of cool for CCP to add. And of course, the coolest thing is the new cloak effect, because everybody likes cool, fancy new cloaks. One of my favorite part of it is actually the fact that CCP has now added make it easier to see your ship when it's cloaked, because that was an issue before. Like when you jump through a gate, or when you're flying cloaked, sometimes it's hard to tell which way your ship is oriented, and so that's a big difference in Eve. None of your hostiles will make it any easier for them to see it, but it makes you easier to see it. So like if you're aligning to a target or something like that, and it gives you a better idea of what you're aligned to and your ship is aligned to, so that when you go to move or to decloak, you know, I'm approximately in line with this moon or this planet or whatever the case may be.
Great. That definitely is some quality of life improvement there.
Yeah,
Oh, definitely like that. I always played a covert ops ship. That was always my favorite to fly. And yeah, I agree. I could never tell where I was pointing.
Yeah, the cloak will help out bombers a lot, and it is really pretty. And the new D-scan drop-down menu, where you can select exactly what you want to filter out, allows you to quickly just, instead of when you pop up the D-scan and try and find to see if somebody's looking for you, the game right now just, if you don't have it set, it'll just give you everything that's scannable in the region. But with the drop-down menu, you select one of your preset overview tabs, and it can be PvP. So only thing that it'll show up is ships and probes, which makes it really quick to know if somebody's hunting you down, rather than clicking on it, scanning through 100 objects to try and figure out, oh, hey, somebody dropped probes trying to find me.
So you can be
Yep, I've
paranoid
done that
faster
too.
and in real time.
Get paranoid
Absolutely.
faster. I love that.
So I did want to run through quickly, since we were talking about the iterations, Phoebe, which is the next release, and so Oceanus just got released back at the end of September, or was it early October? I don't remember anymore. I'm losing track because they're moving so quick.
The 30th.
Okay, yeah, the 30th of September got released. So now November 4th, I believe, is the date. Let me just scroll down to make sure. I'm not seeing it right here on
Yeah,
this
no.
particular screen.
I see right there on your notes. Yeah, the release date's November 4th.
Yes, okay, so November 4th is the date for it. And of course, those jump changes I mentioned before. Another big change that's coming is they're going to allow you to do unlimited skill queues. So no longer do you have to worry about the 24-hour restraint or constraint rather, of having to only be able to put stuff into your skill for the first 24 hours of the time. You could put anything in there as long as it forever and as long as you need it. There is still the requirement of the any skill that has a prerequisite. So for example, if you're trying to train jump drive calibration, you need to have jump drive operation trained to 5 first, and you can't put that into the queue until you've already completed the previous one requirement. So that's there is that one catch there. But as long as you have enough critical mass of skills injected, you should be good.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I've definitely had times where I wanted to train a very specific skill, and I was working on the prerequisite, and I may even have time in the 24-hour window. I'm like, well, why can't I throw that in there? I'll be able to do it when I finish the one right before it, but nope.
Yeah, I kind of wish there was something to do with that, and I think with their new iteration cycle, I wouldn't be surprised if within the next year, and I haven't heard anything specific about this, but I wouldn't be surprised if within a certain period of time you would start to see something that enables that. Obviously, there's probably some tricks to that to try to get it to work from the client side, but it makes logical sense that you can say, okay, I have this physical thing. Let me go ahead and inject it. I can't do anything with it. I don't really know it. It's like it's a null trained skill. And then when I complete the first requirement, all the requirements for it, I can go ahead and put it on my skill queue and just hit play, and so that can go on for that. One kind of caveat is the trial accounts are still limited to 24 hours, just as a note there for the queue.
Makes sense.
And if you do, FYI, if you do want to check out Eve after hearing about this, because I know jump drive changes are really exciting, the 21-day trial, if you hit myself up on the forums or pretty much anybody who plays Eve, we can get you with a buddy code that will give you 21 free days to check out. If you do subscribe via the paying or whatever the case may be, then we can get a Plex, and then usually like myself and most people will give you at least half, if not the whole thing. I personally will give you half the Plex because I need money, but people who have lots of ISK will tend to give you the entire Plex, but they'll give you a big chunk of starting capital. There's lots of cool other things that are coming in Phobos or Phoebe that I'm probably just going to skip over for the most part, but the biggest thing I've seen so far is that the probe scanner and the directional scanner are getting separated visually on the UI to make it so you can use them both simultaneously and kind of keep track of stuff better. So that's going to be a cool thing coming forward as well, and that should be in the November
very nice.
release.
Oh yeah, when you're doing some of the recon things that I've had to do, being able to look at both at the same time would help out a lot, because you can, if you're fast enough on it and you see somebody come into system, you know where you're at in relative to the gates in the system, you can drop a D-scan and you can see when they pass near you or when they're coming to you, because you see, as you click scan over and over, you see that pops up when they weren't there. So you can, if you have the distance set to the right amount, you can see that they are probably coming towards you, because you are the only thing within this certain area, which can, if you cloak up fast enough, it makes it to where somebody's not going to blow up your ship, and sometimes the covered op ships can be kind of expensive, especially for some of the things that we're starting to do.
Right.
I've lost mine more than once to the not being able to catch somebody coming in zone. So
Yeah,
It's not the idea of the game, though.
yeah, but it still hurts sometimes.
Oh, God, yeah.
The T3 ship that I'm flying, I think, is fitted out to 400 million, which is pretty much paper bag fit, which means it's cheapest I can go and still be effective at what I do. But the one that we mentioned that Lank killed earlier was 1 billion, which is enough to pay for 30 days of Plex and then some.
Yeah, that definitely hurt somebody badly.
Yeah. Well, not really, because we had a fight recently where we were able to take down a whole bunch of carriers, and I think it was something like, it was in the 2 digits of billions of ISK, so somebody lost a lot of money.
Wow.
yeah, for those who don't know the game, it's you can actually buy game time with in-game currency, and last time I looked, it was like 700 million was a month worth of game time. I have no idea what it's at now. But
It's maybe pushing 800 now. It's been flirting with 800 all summer.
And that's what, $15 for the month or $20 for the month?
For Plex, it is usually generally $19.99 for Plex, or if you buy 2, it'll be $17.50. If you just subscribe with no Plex involved, it's $15 or less, depending if you do like a year, kind of like just like traditional MMOs.
Right.
Gotcha. So if you imagine people are doing the most cost-conscious method of paying for the game at $15 a month for 800 Plex, you start talking about people losing 10, 20 billion. You can actually we can get Tets to do the math. That's actually turns out to be a lot of real money.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have one account that I'm paying for with just Plex, and I have another account that I pay for with cash, just because it's the one account that I need. If it's one account that I want to play all the time, I pay for it out of pocket. But if I can't Plex the other account, I can always just come around and get the money saved up in game eventually and pay for it.
Not a bad plan, definitely.
I think that about wraps up our discussion on Eve for now. I mean, we're kind of really looking forward to the Phoebe changes for the most part. It's going to be it's going to be hitting everybody hard, but that's kind of the point because CCP didn't want to do a half-hearted nerf and make it so that it only hurt like 1% or it only hurt, or excuse me, it only hurt the 99%, but it didn't hurt the the 1%, the super rich or whatever. So it sounds like it's pretty good, a balance pass. It's going to be a little painful for myself being the logistics director and having to jump stuff around. They did make it a little bit nicer with the fact that they kind of unnerfed some of the changes for Jump Raider specifically, which will be making my life a little bit easier, but it's still not ideal or not how it is today. So that's the only problem. But it should be okay. So, like I said, if anybody wants to check out Eve, feel free to drop into the channel, or if you happen to be on when I'm playing Arcade, I'll probably be in the Arcade channel.
Great.
And you can go to the forums, of course, right?
Absolutely. Yep. The forums.
I'll make the personal plug here. I've only played for 3 months, so I'm nowhere near the experience that these guys have. But Eve it definitely takes a bit to learn. You're not going to jump into it like any other MMO and just start whacking at things day one. You're going to have to learn a little bit about the game. But once you do, it grips you. It is a very, very good and just obsessive kind of game to play. So if you like the idea of flying through space and blowing people up, it is a fun game.
Never about that.
Yeah, P.S. It's also one of the boringest single-player games. So make friends, play with friends. It makes life a lot easier. So that's it from us.
All right, then. So we'll call that our show for tonight. While the chat room begins suggesting show titles, we want to thank Stu and Turbo for joining us. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Not a problem.
All right, so we'll start with Stu. Stu, where can people find you on the web?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. It's @_stupidgenius for myself. And then also, if you want to hear more about me blabbering about Eve, you can check out my podcast at Capstable, or capstable.net for that. And also, if you want to hear my shenanigans about Arcade, I started a new podcast called Capsized, which is at Capsized Podcast. And both of those are available on iTunes and all your favorite podcasting places.
All right, Turbo, where can people find you online?
You can find me at Turbo Addiction, and I'm on the Capsize podcast with Stu and Senile, so you can find us there. Every week, except for this week, I haven't wrote one because of a whole bunch of things that have just been going on. But This Week in AIU, which is just a short, quick update every week about what's going on, what you can look forward into the future, just general news for Eve, for people that probably don't know a whole lot about the game. But even then, it still sounds complicated.
Although I think you have this week covered, so you probably did do a segment.
We're good.
Okay.
All right, and if you have questions or comments about our show, you can email us at podcast@aie-guild.org. You can follow us on Twitter. The show is at AIE Podcast. Accuzod is at Accuzod. Aludra is at Aludra_AIE. And I am at Cyberwave. We record live with video every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern or 5 p.m. Pacific, and actually 5 p.m. Pacific. You can join the chat room and play along with us at our website, theaiepodcast.com. Our theme, of course, was composed by the wonderful and amazing Andrew Allen. Follow him at Keys with Soul or visit his website, keyswithsoul.com.
All right, now it's time for us to play all of the great AIE member segments we received this week, including Ask a Magus, Overly Dramatic News, Ask Miss Mulgra, and Buxley's Journal. And to be honest, I think we have a few more. I think due to the change in show times, we got kind of out of sync with some of the segment contributors, so don't be surprised if you hear a few more. We'll play those right now.
Yes.
And next week we'll be talking to Radozado in Star Trek Online. So until then, AIE, this is Accuzod.
And this is McCullough.
And this has been the AIE Podcast. Okay, it's enough of that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys very much. But don't leave yet. You have a very important duty. It is up to you to pick this week's show title from the suggestions in the chat room. And we have two so far.
Nicely done. I'm sorry. Sybil, you are knocking it out of the park. Wow.
Pretty awesome.
We should just say, Sybil, what's our show title every week?
Jump fatigue is a perplexing risk. I like that. That's just
great.
Love it. All right. Sounds like we have a winner. Congrats, Sybil, again. I think we need to start keeping score.
Right.
All right, so with that, chat room again, thank you very much for joining us on a Sunday. I know you guys have been doing it for a couple Sundays now. We greatly appreciate it. We love that you tune in every time. And Sybil, we won't know what we do if you don't jump in for our show sometime. We probably just won't even have a show. So with that, I will take us off the air. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.